So one of the things we know that we don't have the number up here, right, is, and this is actually kind of interesting too, if you think of how many full-time, like if you think about full-time contributors, it probably went like this, and about here, it hit a pretty steep decline. And that actually makes sense with, we got the most done when we had more full-time contributors. I think maybe we still did more than we're giving ourselves credit for towards the end here, but
I don't think this represents everything we've done.
Right. But it's interesting that that's just how we've represented it here, that there is definitely a bigger chunk in the middle when our full-time contributor count was the highest. Just looking at themes, and when our spending was the highest. You might be able to argue that some of it maybe was not as useful, and well, like Luna, we didn't do that, right? Yeah, there were definitely a lot of features, and not just from like a product perspective, but Fox Chain and Coinbase Cloud, right? SC Fox, VFox went live. A lot of this took more than just engineering effort to do. The whole thing around budget cuts and partial Fox salaries in May, June, all the drama that happened in July. And we still, yeah, well, actually, yeah, you could also track this via like crypto price could be another thing that you could track on here, that we would probably see some very similar trends between crypto price, our spend, and our full-time contributor count.
Revenues are something that we don't have up there too, but I remember February we had a profitable month. We brought in over $700,000 of revenue into the treasury. The vast majority of it was token rewards that we earned having a ton of Fox from the treasury deposit and token there. But they were real revenues, and that month we brought more value to the treasury than we spent. Things were looking so bright. I remember that month we had the product retreat, and we were like looking at the revenues. We're like, holy shit, this is amazing. And especially coming from centralized ShapeShift, and we've been spending twice that amount and earning far less. It was really cool to see. But it was like peak both themes. Like one of the thoughts that I was having as we were going through this whole exercise is just remembering how different things looked when we were in the middle of the bull market. And Scott was reminding me of that too. It's easy to get high on the fumes, and we were definitely high on our own supply of Fox token. Things now look quite different when the treasury is about 15 million total value, whereas at the end of November, beginning of December, we peaked at over $300 million of value in the treasury. Quite a different outlook.
So actually, let's if I take this chart and we just take like July 2021 to December of 2022. And so it kind of, no, I guess I can keep this mic here too, huh? So it kind of looks like the graph kind of looks like that, right? If you look at, like, we ended, this is meant to be higher than this, but this graph, and this being, well, like February, March, right? This is like the peak of profit, of full-time employee count, of our spend. Can anyone confirm, look at that sheet of Darwin's? Did we spend the most in February and March? Is that, can someone pull, yeah, Ken, can you pull that up? But that is not a direct correlation to crypto price. When did crypto price peak? In November.
Yeah, that's right, November.
So crypto price is more when,
but we didn't really know it was a bull until, or a bear market until Luna collapsed. I think that's like, there was still hope around March that we might still see 100K Bitcoin. But then once Luna hit, so in March, in fact, is when we raised the, or end of February and March is when we did the success token sale to Coinbase Cloud in chapter 1.
So we knew in March that we were in bear market territory.
Right? In April, yeah, right when Luna hit. March, there was still hope, I think. No one, yeah.
So Josh, Darwin has columns hidden for the you thought that column.
We can't unhide them.
Another interesting thing is just to look at how much, the entire DAO's history, basically, we were focused on rebuilding the initial app. It took us all the way from here until October, until we got to parity, launched the new version, and migrated all the users. And I know I was pretty optimistic. I don't know if we ever like sat down and said, here's like a realistic date that we all agree on when we can have it, because it was just so much work. But in my head, I had always thought, once we saw some of the first examples of the new app, I'm like, okay, 6 months, we should be able to rebuild it, give or take a couple months. And obviously it took a lot longer than I think anybody anticipated. Prioritize the features to get to parity. Yeah. And we did throw a couple other things in there. We built the Yearn integration. We integrated MetaMask. So there was some extra stuff that got sprinkled on top.
Yeah, and yeah, a lot of different wallets. We peppered in. No, I'm not.
And we left some stuff out from parity as well. Ledger support, Tether support.
Do we have the day that the foundation shut AWS down?
November 2nd. We burned everything down. It's a good one.
Centralized.
Any other highlights anyone put up here that they want to call out?
But did anybody put anything related to taxes take up?
No. That would be a good one. I think October, November, if I had to guess, 2021. It was pretty early on.
Notable thing, especially with respect to our bottom line.
Yeah, it must have been October because and it ended October 31st because that's when the new proposal for the Cosmos validator kicked in.
When do we think it was?
October. Sorry, October 1st. And yeah, also those revenues were quite a bit higher during the bull market when Cosmos was $45.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess I guess there's no surprise here, but we just basically just lagged the crypto price in just about, right? It peaked a few months later, our activity peaked, and as the crypto price declined, everything about Fox price declined, which impacted our spending. So. Yeah, so the blue line is very rough crypto, the price of crypto. The black line is a little bit of an abstraction of the DAO, how much money we spent, our employee count, activity, our treasury. Yeah, this is not with.
It's not DAO treasury versus crypto.
That's right, right. This is not a direct graph. It's kind of like a, and right, we've said that before that like
productivity versus.
Yeah, it's how much we spent, what our employee count is, our trade in general, right? Everything about our spend, our employee count, our treasury. Well, I guess the treasury peaked. You said the treasury peaked in November, huh?
Yeah, peak bull market.
Oh, well, so
it peaked with Fox price.
Well, the treasury peaked. Yeah, right. When we got listed on Coinbase. And
line on it was that we agreed to that decision, and it resulted in 20,000 monthly active users right now, which is nothing to snuff at, and an awesome open source app. But it took a long time, and while we were basically rebuilding, we added a couple of really important new things like MetaMask support. But we lost a lot of users while the industry evolved around us, and while we spent over a year basically rebuilding what we already had in a new and improved version.
So another thing that I'm kind of noticing too, or that kind of Scott started to highlight that we've all been aware of is the availability of us having data to be able to make decisions. And that, like if we're going to graph that started, we're just drawing a whole bunch of lines here, but that's all right. That started high. We just lost all data, and now we're like collecting data again. Yeah, this period there was a total dark period where we were just We were just going by, we were flying by the seat of our pants, going by gut. We had no data.
That actually, for product, I think that was one of the biggest pain points since becoming DAO is when just getting that proposal to a place where it passed and just even having the argument of why we need data and then how long it took, like,
Yeah.
it was.
You guys are talking about pending when I joined.
Yeah, I mean, that integration took
End of last
months and finally
A
actually.
year. It actually took a year.
It took forever, but once
It took a year.
Reed started working on it, by the time he finished, when he left, it still wasn't finished and but it was like, I almost think it never was gonna get over the finish line. I mean, it really felt like that. It was really frustrating.
Before we move on, one more, kind of Scott's point about this idea. Presumably, more recent users are higher quality. Do we have the ability, or have we done cohort analysis in Pando to sort of maybe test that assumption or start testing that over time, saying people who signed up this month display certain characteristics, and then secondarily, what specific characteristics in the data would we say quantify or constitutes, like quality and stickiness?
I want to actually, I want to pause right there because I want to leave. We're going to have more conversations on that point. So let's not dig into that right now. I think we're at the point now we're starting to talk about what worked well and what didn't work well at the DAO. So let's spend some time. We got our timeline down. I'm going to put up some more charts. And so everyone, you got stickies and Sharpies, and just spend some time making notes of been more than a year. It's been a year and a half. What worked well and what did not work well in that year and a half? Right now, we're just going to write them on stickies, and then I'm going to put places. That's right. At the DAO, or the foundation. Oh yeah, it's not a good.
It's just weird, yeah. Like you're closer, so every time you talk. I'm trying to listen. Custom t-shirts for engineers. Everyone see. Here's the second. Like go through the Discord, like engineering chat. It's like, oh yeah.
That's October.
I mean, yeah, I grabbed the things. I did some variations, but layout.
What's that?
Before.
For this one, we're gonna don't come up and put them up yet. We're gonna come up and
Yeah.
say something. Diggy, would you tell us? I want people to come up and just speak to what they're putting up there.
Yeah,
Here,
So-
wait.
these are more just like high level things that just popped in my head. Losing Chow, I think she wasn't right for the work stream leader, but I think she provided a really big value between product and engineering, and losing that was I think a difficult moment for us on product that we worked through, but it was challenging at the time. What didn't work well, marketing went through multiple leadership changes and a lot of turmoil there. Like that definitely didn't go well. And then just having weak PMs on product, that now obviously we don't have them anymore, but I think that didn't work out very well. And then just the time it took to get analytics, the osmosis bounty, still, we're still there. Hopefully we'll get over the finish line soon. And then the time it took to get to parity. What did work well, product slimming down, I actually think has worked well, but open to your debates on that one. Ops is crushing it. I really appreciate everything that they do with the testing and just everything. And then putting in here DeFi's leadership. I know there was a little bit of drama there, but I really think he's done a great job, and the collaboration between really well, and just those that have with Kevin are crushing it, and I think they're working really well.
Thank you. Will you stay up there actually until someone else comes up and grabs the mic from you? Someone else should that?
Should I sing? Well, Jeopardy.
Ken actually was sitting waiting for you to sing. He wanted to hear it. You want me to beatbox?
Yeah.
We'll do that later.
Okay.
Still there? Yeah. Maybe? Yeah. It's been a while. I feel like a lot of these are going to be like, well, that's fun.
Good. Go ahead.
Okay. So me being more of generally an optimist, yet a realist at the same time, I had more worked wells that just popped in my head initially. One was building a lean and cohesive team in the wake of our budget cuts. I think we're getting a lot more done with less resources, less spend, and less people, because these teams are more cohesive. I think this definitely applies to the engineering team, kind of to Bethany's point. Also to marketing. So I have this one up as a separate thing, just the new marketing team. Like, it's night and day. I'm so proud when I see our stuff on Twitter. It's like, this is like nailing it. The image, the brand, the voice is so great. Over here on the did not work well side, I have old marketing. That was emblematic of the bloat we had prior to the budget cuts. And also just a lack of like people getting shit done, a lack of accountability. Of course, it kind of, that was visible kind of at the top of that work stream. We had some drama with certain people, but more than that, it was just like a general malaise that I think also was sort of infecting the rest of the DAO. So in some ways, the budget cuts were actually, positive for the DAO. Certainly not positive for the people that lost their positions, but I put that one up. And then this is a big, broad one, but what's worked well, I think, is our governance process. Of course, we recently shifted from over to Metaphoro, so the way we handle part of that with our forum. But like, if you look at the whole process, it's like very methodical. People know what to do. If they don't know what to do, it's clearly explained. There's been a lot of participation. Like, I was so thrilled to see a lot of like really intense debate, especially when we started to do sort of more controversial things like budget cuts are being proposed, and talking through some of the things like making new rules for the DAO that we hadn't really talked about yet with respect to like what's under the scope of or the purview of workstream leaders, or things like dealing with trolls and kicking somebody out of the community. But all these things have worked well with governance, and that's going to be so important to value accrual for Fox in the future. So those are some of the ones that popped in my head. That's it for me.
Yeah, I better go before you fall off.
Damn.
I love this, Kent. Great stuff. I actually have a lot of the same ones, so that's. All right. Old marketing. Yep. Osmosis down. All right, GM everybody. +1 to the governance process. I think we still see room for improvement, but like we talked about quadratic voting, but what I don't ever see is like proposals that get passed that the community doesn't agree with, that are like a small group of whales are pushing through and that the majority of the community doesn't agree with. And like, we're able to get stuff done. We can come up with ideas and get them funded in a couple weeks, which is awesome. Out of that came the TMDC. And just in general, I think the work streams and the organizational structure we have is another thing that's working really well, enables us to get shit done at scale. We saw it work really well when all the work streams came together and decided to optimize their budgets kind of independently. That was really amazing to see. We didn't need a CEO or a board to come down and do that from the top. Old marketing work stream, I think we recognized it was spending too much. It wasn't getting a lot of stuff done. It was creating a lot of drama. And the new marketing work stream is night and day. So huge props to H. Payne and Tyler for being the interim work stream leader. I completely agree with what Ken said there, so I won't be too redundant here. And also another shout out to H. Payne and PTT for defining a partnership process. That was one thing that at the beginning we were just flying blind. There was a lot of interest and demand, but it was very inefficient. And now we have a really awesome streamlined process, which is key because we have a lot of interest in partnering with us. And also, yeah, not just the osmosis bounty. That was kind of the first bounty. It was like very early in the DAO that proposal went up and got passed, and we probably rushed a little bit. We wasted a lot of effort trying to first integrate it into the old app and then throwing all that effort away. And Yat as well. That was kind of the second attempt after I remember the engineering last retreat, or maybe 2 retreats ago. We agreed that we wanted to experiment with kind of putting out a bounty for something that we already had an offer for 60K bounty from Yat to see if we could get a third party to build the feature. And still, they not only did the third party take a long time to complete it, but now with Yat, it's like we can't get the referral code from them. We're dependent on them, and we're completely blocked. So if we can get it live, it might be nice, and we'll get a big. We'll actually get like 30, 40K into the DAO treasury. Yeah, if they still have money. If they still have money.
So I don't know the status on yet, and they haven't gotten back to me on my latest communication with them. So
it's a bit of a shit show, but we're learning lessons. That's why we're doing this. Who's up next? DeFi. Oh, I already called on DeFi. We're doing that. You're up.
I'll start with what did not work well. When I first joined, there seemed to be a lack of alignment between product and engineering. Everyone was just kind of seemed like they were doing different things, and there was no clear direction on what we were trying to achieve and when we were trying to achieve it by. I don't think that's the case anymore, but that was just the initial impression I had. And second was architecture quality and code quality when I first joined was pretty rough, and I think that was slowing us down. Moving on to what worked well, kind of where we are now in a lot of ways. Product and engineering work together quite a lot more. We're more aligned. We're more one team than we are separate teams, and I think that's working well. Engineering throughput and velocity seems to have increased, even though we are a small team. We're working well. We're working quickly. We've improved the quality of our code base, and I think that's set us up well for next year and for the velocity of new features. And we started prioritizing roadmap items based on expected return, which I think is a very big positive. So I think that's working well. It hasn't really shown results yet, but I'm optimistic about that. That's cool. If I can go.
Alrighty, no particular order here. I'll say product has been a pleasure to work with. Diggy's leadership and just getting in a pile of beer, it's great. Willie too, pumping the ideas through, that's great. I'm going to put partnership funnel here in the middle because it wasn't working well and now it's working a lot better. So thanks to ops, especially PTT, for taking care of that stuff. A lot less distractions coming through. They're higher qualities, but I've learned to say no to people, which I think is a skill that we didn't have before. Bond selling, looks like the top is like the biggest foot gun of all of them, and its friend DGen loans. I think that we've put a lot of stables towards paying down loans that we took out that we perhaps didn't assess the risks for or necessarily need. I have to acknowledge this, I don't like doing it, but the security work stream I don't think worked well at the time. things did really well, the migration, in terms of like big features that we pulled off, and the risk associated with them, that went flawlessly. There was no downtime. Users seem to be thrilled with the new product now. And that was, every team had a part in that, which was amazing. Then I want to shout out for Tyler leading marketing and the transition to HPaint as well, compared to where we were, just the output marketing and the costs that it was associated with it. So that's worked really well in my opinion. And then the lean engineering team, absolute pleasure to work with all of you, and just couldn't have a better team. I just wish I had more of you all and working with products. So.
Hey, can we get some snaps going if you agree? Nathan, you join?
I only have a couple. First one, Gray Machine moving over to product. It's awesome. Yeah, it's been great. The global team has been really good. Barcelona, I heard Colombia was really good. A lot of that's, new with the DAO. And then in the middle, I put ShapeShift.com. It's better than what it was, but it could be better. That's it.
One more that you just reminded me of while we transition to whoever's next. All the new foxes. I think this occurred to me, like you mentioned Gray Machine coming on. The fact that Gray Machine, Giant Can, Apotheosis, like jumped into the Discord and just joined and got involved. GK, all of you guys. Yeah, the new talent that's joined the DAO is absolutely amazing. Great. Grateful for all of the new foxes. Is it about 8, 9?
And then raise your hand if you came after the launch date, after.
Pretty good.
Yeah, it is close to 50-50.
And then,
well, yeah, I'm just thinking that that's here, but if you think of like a current contributor.
Right.
Yeah.
It is amazing. And that's how I actually kicked off my pros and cons, or my pluses and minuses. First, Josh, I think this is great. It's also really easy to bitch and moan and complain. So I try and temper myself with every complaint I have in my life. You have to balance it out with a pro, right? Because you start to lose perspective, I think. And so if you ever hear me bitch and moan, there's going to be positive in there somewhere, vice versa. But my first one was a dedicated. I titled it Dedicated Talent Pool because, think about just the concept of being here right now and the amount of people that you have engaged that are willing to be a part of this. And then the talent that underlies that engagement is really amazing to see. When this first kicked off, the DAO first kicked off, I was skeptical that anyone would last more than a few months. And look at where you guys are, 18 months later, which is just absolutely amazing. So hats off to everyone for that. On the balancing out side of things, I have I just labeled it as cost/risk management oversight. And I don't really know how to describe that other than, one of the things I've watched in the DAO is you've had things that we don't normally have in a centralized world. Like, for example, a finance team, right? Near and dear to my heart. Right? And in finance, a lot of times you don't make a lot of friends because a lot of times you're saying no. No, we're not going to fund that. No, we're not going to allocate resources. You didn't have that. And I think that created a cost problem leading up to today. It led to some really painful cuts. And now you're in a situation where I think you've made a lot of those really painful cuts. The question I have for you as a DAO is, how are you going to manage that cost/risk oversight moving forward? Knowing that, for example, is it really fair for a lot of people? I don't want to say fair, but it's difficult for, let's say, me without intimate knowledge of what marketing does, I have a really strong opinion on their budget, right? But I have to vote, and my vote matters, right? So what sort of checks and balances do we have here to say that, you know, we're going to add some level of constructive criticism or deep think around our cost structures themselves? I don't know how to answer that question, but at the very least, I think we could do a better job of really validating our own costs and making sure that when you get my vote, you've earned my vote, as opposed to, I think it's really easy for us to be like, dude, I mean, we're buzzed. Of course I'm going to vote for you, right? And we just have to be careful of that. Now, I think we are to this day, and from the time we started to today, there's a lot more healthy skepticism out there, and that will lead to a much healthier DAO. So I just want to throw that out there.
It's very important. It's very important that when our numbers, goals that can be validated and tracked, and they can brought on after the fact while you're doing it. We're working towards this goal. You know, we have this established goal in mind. If we don't make it, you know, that is you'll be able to go back up forward and say, hey guys, we missed it by this, but we really think we know what we're wrong. We're about to do it again. Versus just like, trust me, no, it didn't work this time. We're gonna just swap it out and do something else. I think that there has to be that, exactly like you said. Yes, there's a thing trust stuff, but as the DAO continues to grow, again, we have to be willing to have justifiable that justifiable goals. You know, we're held accountable because if we're not going to be held accountable for them, so basically people just as they want and getting paid. Requests come down the line. I agree with a lot of I also, as a little slight different thing.
I want, thanks for commenting. I want this time when people are up here to just be able to share their piece without, we'll get into discussion and debate, but this is for.
All right, two more quick ones. On the plus side, the generic terms I have here are technology and processes supporting DAO operations in general. And when you think about it, there's no playbook for running a DAO. You guys created it. You're making history, right? And yeah, there's some bumps in the road when we look at the timeline, but all in all, the processes in general at a high level have been so smooth and so slick that you are writing the playbook that other people are going to copy moving forward. And I think that's really fucking cool. Lastly, on what I don't think worked well, and I think we could still improve on, and I'll end it on this, is diversity of opinion. And I do feel when we look at the timeline and we see some of the drama that's happened in the DAO, I remember watching that in horror. And then there was another part of me that was watching that, saying, this is going to be really interesting to see how the DAO deals with it. Because there's no HR team, there's no CEO, no one's going to say you're fired, right? How are you guys going to deal with it? Remember, that's part of the playbook you're writing. And you did what you needed to do. And yeah, it might have taken a few more days than you expected to, but it had to work itself out. And that was really healthy. What I'd love to see moving forward is more Socratic, healthy debate on all of these proposals, these topics. The fact that I would question anyone's budget or anyone's decisions here, it's for the love of the DAO. It's not because there's anything personal. And for me to feel comfortable in that environment, having that conversation, I think is really important. So let's create that healthy environment where we can have a Socratic conversation. We feel good about it. We still have beers at the end of the day. And I think that's going to benefit the whole DAO.
All right, I'll start off with what worked well. So solid parity foundation, I always felt was like
lacking. We had a lot of bugs. We cut a lot of corners, and I feel like we're kind of getting all those corners solidified. We have a solid foundation, and I think it's going to pave way to more efficient feature integrations as we move forward. So I think that process has gone well, and I'm excited to see how it pays off moving forward. Smaller, more unified team alignment, I think, has been really solid. Product engineering has been aligned. It's kind of been addressed already, but I feel like it's working really well. Velocity is good. Quality features being added, and I'm really happy with it. In process, but seems like it's working well. I'll mention Archeo. Seems like it's coming together quickly. Excited to see how it synergizes with ShapeShift proper and can hopefully help move things along as we also hopefully get out of this bear market at some point. So what didn't go well? So I think it's moving towards the right direction, but not enough data to make like educated decisions and being able to retrospect correctly on what went wrong or right. And having that moving forward, I think will be helpful. Yeah, the whole DAO drama, I guess, you know, we're in a good place now, but I felt like it definitely put a damper on things and efficacy there for a while we were resolving that and getting through that whole process. The counter side of the smaller, more unified team alignment is I felt like previously and even in ShapeShift, formerly, we had too many balls in the air all the time, and I think we thought that it would help velocity and we could do all these features and stuff, but I felt like things often like conflicted and made things actually more difficult to maintain velocity and certainly quality. And we saw that, and the whole move in the migration was kind of why a lot of that maybe took longer than we expected. Was a lot of those things that we had to clean up and make better just by trying to move too fast and having too many balls in the air. And then another one, more so on the not well, but there's been some positive outcomes, is just like the bounty process or engineering bounties in general. You know, we got some $2 devs from it, but also a lot of it has been a lot of support work. You can often do it easier and quicker yourself. And it's just like, I don't know. I haven't been too excited or impressed with it, and feel like, I don't know, incentivized bounties are good and all, but also like someone that really has the passion and drive would come to it and just kind of do it and ask the questions and might be more organic. Don't really have any necessary solutions there, but hasn't been my favorite part of things, I guess, thus far.
Big fan of cameras, so. So a lot of what was said, you know, obviously I interrupted, but I will say that some things I can kind of say, like one of the things I did put that maybe more like a middle of the road thing that I see people have been doing. It's like the expectations and transitions to DAO contributors. So I think that at first it was very up in the air from the centralized ShapeShift people, like not knowing like how that transition was going to happen and what it was going to look like. And it led to, I think, some individuals, you know, initially like really trying to come work within the DAO, and then realizing that it wasn't going to be what they were looking for. That was kind of a little bumpy from being an outside contributor coming in, you know, and seeing that, you know, and my take obviously is a little bit more unique than some others, that where I really came into the DAO to try to look at how that transition can go from a structured traditional fork into a DAO, a totally decentralized thing. That was what brought me to the DAO. That's what I really strive to kind of see how that would work, so that in the future there could be possibilities where this could become a larger scale experiment. And really that experiment, I think there were some bumps in the road to where some of the expectations from an outsider looking in, where, you know, hey, this is how we did it. This is what we're comfortable with. This is what works. And some of those things work well for a DAO, you know, but some of those things work, you know, just basically, you know, a comfort level, you know, to where it made sense to do it that way initially, to get past that initial roadblock. So I think that that was kind of like a middle of the road thing. I think we're getting better now. We're communicating a little bit more now, with our expectations and what we want to see happen. And I think that for the DAO in general is a great thing, because it gives us the ability to work together versus just like, you know, this is how this work stream, or not even a work stream before, like this is how our department operated, and it only makes sense that we continue that way. I think that having an open mind and a willingness to adapt is growing, and it was there, but it was difficult to know what to expect from contributors. I think that something that most of mine are middle of the road, and it's only because I can see positives and negatives on both sides, kind of something like Scott said. But I do see like the working expectations of engineering and ops. I think we're a good place now from where we were. Like initially, we didn't really know. It was like, oh, this is the way we did releases before. This is how we did it. And DeFi came in and really had an idea of how he wanted to change that, and how he wanted to increase the velocity, and how he really wanted to do faster releases and stuff. And it took a while for that to work out within ops and engineering, the give and take, and how we could figure out how that would work best. I think right now, as others have stated, the velocity has gotten very good, as far as their team knows that, you know, they can like put something out there and ops responds, and we know how to respond, I think, a little bit better now, and communicate with engineering to allow them to, you know, take that feedback and go from there. So I think that while it might have been a little bumpy in the beginning, I think we've made very good strides there in getting it to a place to where now we work very well in hand, and that includes the increase, and I know Tyler's not here at the moment to speak, but the ability to work across time zones for both work streams. You know, DeFi was very big on allowing, you know, having extended work hours, and I know Tyler was as well, because Tyler and I talked a lot about in the beginning, and having those contributors that are globally and able to work within different time zones, and really spread out that process to where we can do multiple releases in a day. So I think that that has gotten to a good place. Another thing, to Kevin's point, and maybe others have said too, it kind of worked a little bit, was the bounties. I mean, we've had some successful bounties, but I think that, to his point, a lot of the bounties have been a little bit, I want to say, remedial or smaller things, but a lot of the larger undertakings, or the bigger things, have really kind of fallen off, and it's been very hard to get that to come into the DAO and be done and accomplished in a very effective way. I think a lot of times, like Kevin stated, it comes down to like, well, we can do this better, we can do this faster, or we can do this with less effort. So therefore, you know, we take it in-house, versus like, you know, I don't know if we'll ever get to a point in the DAO where it is more bounty focused, to where we are outsourcing a lot more of the effort and work and lift, and allowing ourselves internally as core contributors, as we continue on in that role, to focus more on the goal orientation and the direction, and, you know, ensuring that the process is going the way we continue to want to, almost like, you know, those who are kind of protecting and ensuring that the DAO has a direction to go, and creating those things for more people to come in and to build for us. I think that it's going to be very hard in this bull market, and where we sorry, Bear, and where we stand now, yeah, right, with, you know, being very lean and trying to be agile and lean. There is something to be said about being small and agile, but at the same time, I think playing catch up, where there's a lot of more resources and availability with other players in the ecosystem, is gonna be very difficult. I think that right now it's obviously hard to leverage other people coming in, like you said, Kevin, having that drive and having that desire to want to be a part of it. I think that part of building the DAO itself is that culture and that aspect of making it a place where people are welcome to come and giving them that opportunity and really trying to instill like, you know, what we're trying to accomplish, whether it's decentralization or, you know, all the other prospects that we can bring that will bring that talent here. But once, you know, we have to have the ability to, once we see that talent, to be able to retain that talent. And I think that's something that we're getting a lot better at doing, but we're working on it still. So.
I just want to do a little time check for people. So it's 11:30. I think it might be worth it. We've gone through more than half of the people to, although I noticed the energy is getting a little low, but I think we can get the rest of everyone to come up and we can pay attention to them. And then we will take a lunch break and we'll continue in the afternoon. Does that work for everybody? Everyone on board with that? Yeah. Okay, cool.
Sure. I was getting sticky notes out. Oh, I should be quick. I've got kind of one overarching one and one small one that I think is just a good example. So one thing I wanted to call out that worked well is our improved alignment and collaboration between product and marketing. And just to speak quickly on like when I stumbled into the ShapeShift Discord and I saw all these kind of opportunities popping up, and I was kind of like, I'm not gonna, there's like no route, like I'm not an engineer, like I did a lot of PM work at my old job, but it was in a totally different space. But as I hung out, I saw more of this opportunity between product launches, marketing, branding, and all this kind of stuff. There's kind of this empty space. It was kind of all piled on Huff to do like the brand itself, as well as press releases and all that kind of stuff. And we were pushing out product releases that would just kind of get launched, and there was no fanfare or anything like that. So that's when I started to see the opportunity for me, and that's how the creative services thing launched, is that it was there to support, you know, well, creative services for people. It's not the design group, like product is design in many ways. It's user experience design, it's graphic design. Creative services is there to be that that support group across all work streams. So this year, that improved, oops, wrong one, alignment between product and marketing. And I mean, just in general, but specifically, like we have something, we're launching it, we want to get the world to know about it, embrace it, and learn about it. That's been a huge improvement this year, since, you know, we've had the shifts in marketing leadership and all that. And I very much appreciate HPN and Marina for kind of taking that over. And it's just been a night and day experience in terms of collaborating and focusing on really nice brand aligned visuals that support what we do, right? You know, we can write all these articles and stuff like that, but we really need to like embrace our brand and get it out there. A small one, but this just didn't work well, and I think this also kind of speaks to some of our challenges, is this merch store thing. This was sort of indicative of kind of old leadership. We had all these over promises. We've got 1 million people on our mailing list, and they spent all this money to work with us. They spent all this money for a motion designer. Like, I'm a motion designer. They're like, they spent $25,000 to hire a motion designer to do an NFT that we never ended up launching. Now they're all kind of aggravated at us that they spent $25,000 on an NFT project that we decided, no, we're not actually going to do that. So we overpromised. It's given us very little revenue. I actually had another sticky, but what has worked well is us sort of taking it over, simplifying it, getting away from this NFT stuff, and just keeping it a simple, small, you know, side revenue business for us. I think that's really about it. Mike. Taking it over, Eddie.
Yes, first one is a props actually on product collaboration. So all the alignment that we have between product and engineering has been very smooth the whole time. Both in like this very small kind of test, like, oh, I noticed this, this is suboptimal. What if we do it that way? Product is just like, yeah, sure, we can do this. To more like features, you know, like bigger features that we also have much better alignment with engineering nowadays than used to have. And bounties also, I think that product input there is very valuable. And bounties have worked a lot better. Say, big props to Diggy and Beard. It's a very great collaboration. Yeah, product engineering and marketing. So like this kind of like try collaboration, I have to say, it didn't used to work so well. Like we had a bit of issues with alignment. We actually discussed this with HPain just before that. Like marketing would basically go to engineering directly, and like we would communicate with marketing, and product would be not so aligned with marketing. So there was really this kind of misalignment. We would have expectations from marketing instead of having expectations from product, basically. So this got a lot better. So big props to marketing. And last one, collaboration with the hubs. Same thing, like didn't used to work so well. Like we had few issues with alignment. Like the expectations of how things should work, how things should be tested, they were not always there. I think we got a lot better at that. Now have a very streamlined, kind of defined process, very automated as well, that makes sure that they know what should be tested, they know what should be the acceptance criteria. Everything is clear and everything is like broken down into multiple releases throughout the day also. So yeah, I feel like we don't have these kind of issues with apps anymore. Like everything works very smooth. So thanks to you guys, and thanks to Deepa also for all this kind of like improvements that help that. So this one, both work well and not so, in my opinion. I think we got better at that. So I'm going to put it first. And didn't work well. There is engineering bounties. I think that like bounties, we have this issue with bounties that we would just bounty anything, something that would take us like 5 minutes to fix. Would just be bountied, and then it would be like, okay, so we need product to basically bounty it out. We need to find the bounty hunter. The bounty hunter will work on it. We'll have possibly feedback. So what would take 5 minutes would take really a few days, and makes us all like lose time and money effectively. So I think we got better at that. Like these kind of bounties now, we really try to avoid them. Like we know how to narrow them down, and we know how to select bounty hunters better also. We have quite a few trusted community contributors also that really do great on bounties. I mean, the CX guys, there is StackQ, many others, they've done great work. So yeah, I think that bounties were getting better. Still not there, like still a bit of friction, but getting a lot better. So I'm also going to put it in work well. Small one on the Cosmos usage. I feel like Cosmos, at least that's what the number said, I'm not sure where the numbers are coming from, or like if they're reliable, but at least from what we know, the usage of Cosmos as a chain, as a feature, is not high, to say the least. So it was a big lift for really not a lot of usage. So I'm going to put this in didn't work well. However, I think that we did great work on Cosmos as a groundwork, and it allowed us to integrate things like toolchain, which we wouldn't have been able to integrate otherwise. And toolchain is actually highly used from what we've seen. Like the numbers were impressive, and without Cosmos, we wouldn't be able to have this in the first place. So, yeah, the groundwork is really really useful here, and great work on engineering. And last one, which did not work well, is like share and colony. So this kind of like missions that are not like, they're kind of like bounties, but not really engineering bounties. So it can be something like marketing kind of thing. Didn't work so well. Like colony missions, I think we've seen no engagement on that at all. And share, I think you guys are just starting to use this, so we'll see. But I think, yeah, algorithm didn't work well for now, but that's something I'm really bullish about. I mean, all this kind of gamification, like to bring more engagement from users. I think it's really key to have actually more, not just more users, but really users that matter. It don't work well for now, but really bullish on what we have in the future.
All right, cool. I'll try to have some brevity here, just to go through this stuff. Actually, a lot of people sort of mentioned a lot of processes, transparency, a lot getting other contributors into the DAO. I think that's something that recently has worked relatively well, right? At least from a marketing perspective, a lot of this is coming through my specific lens of, hey, like this works better now. It didn't work great at the end. We've done a really great job documenting a lot of how we operate things. So if I was hit by a bus, Arena or T Wells can come in and say, hey, like, I know exactly what he was working on. I have all the docs, all the links to all the projects. Like, I'm just going to pick up where he left off. And I think largely the success of onboarding new contributors is making those barriers as low as possible, right? So if someone were to come in and say, hey, like, I want to replace DeFi, like, what was he working on? Having all of that stuff publicly available, all of the processes available, so people can come in and interchange with the active contributors here. I think that's going to be really important to continue building out and make accessible to everyone, right? Because I think it'll help onboard the contributors. So that's under a worked well as of recently, but didn't quite work well in the past. Another thing we're also doing is qualified learning, right? Something almost everyone touched on is having data to back up and drive results and actions, right? I think in the past we had that dark area of, largely, I came in January. We had a huge like 4 or 5 month period where, we didn't know what was going on, right? There's no qualified learning. We're just doing things without seeing metrics, results, and now we're going back and able to see, oh, hey, like this is what worked, this is what didn't work. We can now judge actions based on that, right? Super important to continue to do that. So that's also going under worked well, didn't work well in the past, but I can see that's on our mind in terms of what we're talking about. Something else that didn't quite work well, but is now working better, right? Marketing, talking with products and ops and engineering, right? It was a huge clusterfuck. Like, engineering was mad. They're like, like, don't bother us. And products are like, what are you doing? And, all this other random crap. But now having a nice flow of saying, hey, this is what's going on. Right? And I think we're going to continue to refine that flow in terms of cadence and pacing and feature releases to make sure that the app still provides a delightful experience to users, right? But also can have consistent flow of messaging, right? So I think that's sort of, I'm going to put this sort of in the middle of like still definitely a work in progress in terms of how we can optimize this better and sort of pace that out. But it's something that I think we're actively working on. So it's not quite in the worked well bin, but somewhere in the middle. Something that recently happened in this last month is marketing is now syncing weekly, 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time every Monday. So please show up if you want to. And we do a regression, right? This is going back to the idea of validated learning. So going back and making sure that we can actually go back and look at, hey, what happened? What worked last week? What didn't, right? Let's take that knowledge, take those learnings, move it forward into this next week, and make sure we continue learning on it. I think it's important that, I highlight that in fact has worked well, right? We've seen a lot better efficiency, we've seen a lot better productivity, right? Everything is moving a lot smoother because you can apply this validated learning and are syncing on that reflection in specific. Don't quote me on that. And then also, this is sort of like in that same tangent, right? Product marketing, bi-weekly sprints, right? Syncing up with marketing and having literally a laundry list of saying, hey, like, let's touch on these different things, getting together with them and say, hey, I need you to do this, 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 and this. Hey, what do you need from us? Let's do it, knock it out, done, right? Before that just didn't exist. right? So I can approach marketing, I can approach product and say, hey, I need a landing page for an event. And they say, hey, cool, we'll build it. And then they come back and it's done. Super easy. Like, and it didn't exist before, but now we're doing it. So once again, under the worked well. A lot of this is going back to the idea of validated learning and touching back on this. The last thing I think worked really well, in my opinion, just from reflecting back on these things, is our DAP back tier 3 on-chain rewards, right? Incentivizing users to use our app in quantities that make it sustainable, relatively sustainable for us, and also getting people to explore all the different features of our app. So I'm looking forward to continue to building those out and encouraging users to use the app, right? Not just giving them, Bitcoin to use a wallet and create one, giving them some Fox to actually use our app, make a trade, stake some Fox, all that other stuff. So that's sort of like in this weird ambiguous zone where it might not have been working efficiently, but I'm looking forward to seeing it grow and continue moving there. On the not so good side of things, I think global and marketing, there's always been like a weird, communication lapse thing. So I'm looking forward to working on refining that. I know Sapote, moving forward in the new marketing work stream is going to be acting more as a liaison between those people, or between the LATAM team and the global team. I think there's some campaign optimizations we can do there to make sure we're tapping into the international market and not just the English market. So I'm putting that in the did not work well. And then the last two things, this has already been touched on. The previous marketing work stream, we had a huge team, like honestly, sort of a balloon budget. I'm astounded. We actually got away with it for 6 months. like looking back on it, I'm like, why was I not fired? Like that just, it does not make any sense. It literally doesn't make sense. Like I was happy I had a job, but at the same time, it's like, wow, like honestly, like probably didn't need marketing from like July to like May probably. Maybe a little bit, but definitely not at the scope we had. So that's sort of like did not work well. Definitely something to consider and keep mindful moving forward. And then also, T-Wells has sort of noticed some of this stuff. Prior marketing and sort of pre-decentralization, also moving through these early phases, did a lot of giveaways, did a lot of synthetic paid acquisition users, and we're seeing a lot of negative results of that now, right? So it looks really good in this front part, like, oh great, we're like doing things, we're marketing, and now we're seeing like huge drop-offs of bots or huge drop-offs of users that weren't actually users to begin with, right? So we're seeing a lot of negative consequences of that. And so that is one of those like did not work well and should not do, period. Maybe not necessarily giveaways, but necessarily the synthetic feel-good metrics. I think those sort of are still continuing to hurt us and affect us as we move forward into our future. So that's the last thing I got for you. Happy to pass this to whoever is next. I see GK's in the back, or someone. T-Wells, okay. Come.
The first thing I guess it should go and work well here. I just put on one sticky tokamak because I think that I was reviewing some of the videos I did about a year ago, covering what happened. I think that we're sort of living on, in some ways, the importance of this success. And I still remember the 8th last year, and was fortunate enough to cover that. I was part-time for the majority of this last year. And so I have a little bit of an interesting perspective, spent time across different DAOs and sort of observing a lot of this stuff. And I think that there's a lot more of this that happens comparatively speaking to other DAOs. In particular, I think we mentioned earlier that the governance process is something that I think is more refined and effective. One of the things I just want to vibe off what Scott said earlier, which is that I think it's particularly important that we're open to constructive criticism and having those Socratic conversations. In a centralized organization, it's easier for the CEO to stand up and say, hey, this is what's happening, and this is why it should happen, and be a different, sort of more forceful when necessary about that. But if we're in this more community-driven, decentralized space, I think it's just more important that we're open to everybody's ideas and sort of how to move forward collectively. It's a unique challenge, but I think that we're certainly up to it. Just really quick about this in terms of when I first came on working with the marketing side of things, it was, I think the best word earlier, Kent, was a malaise. I think there's no strategic guidance. There's no resource, there's no document to sort of either help the marketing growth work stream like align with other work streams and what were the priorities, nor internally, like how we were supposed to orient ourselves around rowing in the same direction on X, Y, or Z. And this was it was quite a challenge. I think it came to a head, obviously, when there were the cuts and sort of the removal of certain people in positions of leadership. And I think that reflecting back on that, I guess it is it's incumbent on each work stream, I think, to explore how we can develop, after maybe the strategic conversation tomorrow, how the work streams can like come up with their own one-pager resource. It's a set of strategic priorities to help align people who are working on those work streams. I think to HPain's point quickly about marketing and growth, it was really confusing how we were supposed to be working together. And it was clear there were a lot of really smart people with really good ideas. We couldn't get much traction because, as I said, there were no priorities to help us say, okay, we're going to do this together and we're going to do this and you're going to do that. We're going to meet in the middle and then push it out. There was no way to do that. I feel like now there's a unique opportunity. And we also have, despite being lean, we have the personnel that I think can do this. So Ponte is a fellow I worked with for almost the last year. He's a champ. He's on the call right now. He's helped to, take up the streaming responsibilities from Ron, but he has a lot more potential in terms of his skill set. He's a native Spanish speaker. I think he'll make a great liaison between marketing and growth to figure out how we can synergize. One of the specific things I heard Willie say on a recent call about growth is that it's almost like an incubator for Web3 native marketing tools. And so if they have the data on which of these tools work, is Odyssey good? Is PublishOX good? Yeah, in a quantitative way, then it can help us, I think, figure out again how we can like lean into those native tools to get more traction in the space. Okay, last thing I had was I just wanted to say a word here. I don't think he's here, but I can't say enough about Tyler's leadership in helping us to sort of make the transition out of that crazy period into where we are now. I don't think that we'd all be in one piece. And sort of him coming in and, enabling us just hitting the pause button on the crazy and listening, setting one-on-ones, getting us together and sort of helping us figure out what our priorities should be given his insights as ops leader was great. And I'm really excited to see HPain take over the leadership position and definitely bullish on things going forward. That's all I got. John King. No pressure, sir.
Okay, you go after pasta. You got one more warning, but then you gotta go. I do also, when we're done here, I do want to give, how many people are on Zoom? I want to give just some opportunity to at least hear from the people who are on Zoom. We don't even know who they are. I mean, we know that, but we don't know who's on the call. Okay, go.
GM, everybody. First thing is something that went well, and I think this is going really well. I wrote on the post-it note, "We out here." It's been like 18 months, right? I had no idea how this is going to go, right? I was cautiously optimistic, and I don't know, the success we've seen so far, even though it's been difficult at times along the way, has like dramatically exceeded my expectations. So, yeah, on the order of 18 months since the start of the DAO, several months into a crushing bull market, and like we've still got a lot of the core people from centralized ShapeShift, and a lot of the people that came in along the way on still active in the community. Everybody's motivated. We're getting stuff done, and like it makes me proud to see it. So that's number one here. I just wasn't sure. Yeah, I think we've really matured as an organization also, right? So like there are new processes in place, the operation is a lot smoother. Expectations are well communicated. I think there's obviously a lot more alignment between the work streams. I think the inter-team observability is a lot better too. So like I do distinctly remember maybe a year ago having absolutely no idea what was going on the other work streams. The communication has gotten a lot better, and as a result, I think the entire organization feels more cohesive, and that's important. So we know what it is that everybody else is doing. Our individual priorities are sorted out on the teams. I think those priorities are aligned with the other work streams, and we're working pretty efficiently to get what we need to do done. And so that's also been great to see. That's worked out well, and that's come together in a big way in the last few months. Something that maybe didn't go quite as well, or something that we can improve on, is I think is like the reasoning about the operational efficiency, right? I hear like to Kent's point, what Kent was saying earlier, like we're doing more with less, we're leaner and meaner. That might be the case. It's also worth considering that we're something on the order of 30% older than we were when the decisions to downsize were made. So I just think that's important to keep in mind because in this example, right, that mindset might make us fearful of growth on the other side of this. And on the other side of this, when we can afford to, we're really going to need to expand as it's necessary to do so. So I think, yeah, being mindful about all of the reasons for which the DAO might be improving is something that we could improve on, and I think we do. Something else that I think we need to be mindful of is, in my opinion anyway, I'm a little bit concerned about the degree of centralization that the DAO has sort of settled into. Now, on one hand, I do understand that it's easier to run a centralized organization than it is an entirely decentralized one. But given the task that we've chosen to take on, we've got to recognize that we've got a responsibility to complete a task that is harder than it would be otherwise. We've got a responsibility to the community members, and it's been a little bit unfortunate to see, but I've noticed that community participation has been dwindling over the past several months. Now, some portion of that is probably attributable to market conditions, but certainly not all of it. So we're not failing in that regard by any means, but I think it's something that we need to keep in mind going forward, and it's easy to lose track of that. So I'll put that in what did not work well, but I think it's just something that we should be mindful to improve on. I don't think the conversations around the DAO-wide budget cuts went well either. There's a big secret about it. There was quite a bit of drama. I didn't enjoy that. I don't think anybody else did. Fortunately, we've mostly made it through a lot of those tough conversations, but I think we can use that as a learning experience, right? And I think that's to my previous point. Had those been brought in front of the community, I think we probably would have arrived at the same set of decisions, but I think the process would have been a lot smoother than it was. On the other side of that, the conversations about the DAO-wide strategy since then have been moved entirely into public channels, and that's been wonderful to see, at least from my perspective. That's something that's been important to me for a long time. I know it's been important to other community members, and yeah, I think we're doing the best job that it's possible to do about getting these conversations entirely open to the public. We're going to have these conversations tomorrow. Everybody is welcome to participate. We're taking feedback from anybody that's involved, and I think that's the right way to do things. We're doing a great job of that. All right, GK.
Let's see. I know the camera shows, so I'm not very well speaker, so we'll see how it goes. Overall, everybody's working together. The whole process was pretty nice to see. So that one's an easy one. Obviously, the controversial proposals that stayed pretty professional, I thought. That's all the general crap. A couple proposals that didn't work well was actually going to be, so I have one for the work well and one for the didn't work well. And then which leads me into I'm always shaking a little bit. It was more of the controversial persons that didn't work well together. And then the last one is more of the mod job position. To me, it worked well one way, but as I do more and more support for other things, I keep wanting to do more, and I don't know how to make it support better. I always feel that my position is more of to help you guys do yours. That's all I care about. As long as that works, I'm happy. And now I got to go in front of the camera to put these on the wall, right?
If you don't want to, I can put them on. You don't.
That's fine. Yeah.
I win.
Okay, and while I'm putting these up, oh yeah, here's John.
I just slapped one up there while you're talking. Okay, go ahead. It's a big one.
Yeah, I apologize in the sticky notes, but most of these have already been up there, but I'll just go through. So this has already kind of been said, and
Pasta just said it in a way, but I do really want to emphasize that like one thing that went well is we're still here. Like all of you are still here, the DAO is still here, and like that really can't be underemphasized in the sense that, you know, 18 months ago, the DAO was launched. It didn't have a single stablecoin to its name at that point. It had only its Fox Treasury and a community of supporters. And it's lasted this long. And not only that, but it's outlasted some of the largest companies which have failed in the industry. Ones that were like multi-billion-dollar, and I'm not even just talking about FTX, but to the BlockFis, to the Celsiuses, et cetera. There were much more well-capitalized entities with far more business and far more money that have not survived as long as the DAO. That's pretty incredible, actually. I don't know that even, you know, I was pretty bullish, but I don't think I would have predicted exactly that set of outcomes. So, and not only that, but we still have, you know, close to or around a year of runway despite all those things. There's a lot of organizations in crypto that don't do that, and surviving is a large part of winning the game in the crypto industry. And we've seen that over the years. So you should all be proud of that. The fact that it's still here, the fact that you're all still here is actually a really big deal. And, you know, we won't want to stop there. There's a lot more we want to do to achieve, but it all starts with surviving. If we don't survive, it's not going to matter. None of that's going to be possible. And on that front, I know we talked and we kind of go through it, but to me, one thing that went well was the process, that the fact that there was a process around budget cuts, et cetera. I wasn't sure how that was going to work out, you know, coming from centralized worlds, always being on that kind of, you know, leadership or executive side when we decide to do budget cuts, et cetera. There was always, you know, lots of conversations and decisions, but there was always those people decisions. And I didn't know if that was going to happen in this environment. And the fact that, you know, yes, they were messy. Such things are always messy. I don't think you would have gotten through it, but the fact that people stepped up and did things and there were conversations and that there were reductions when they needed to happen is part of the reason you're all still here and that we have outlasted some of those orgs. So I think that's something to be proud of. To Pasta's point, that doesn't mean we can't be afraid to expand again when things get better again, hopefully. But making hard decisions at hard times as a community without, you know, centralized leadership is a really big deal. So to me, that really worked out well. Obviously, there are some things that we could do better. You know, revenue dropped off with the market, but that happened to all crypto environments, but we need to figure out a way to optimize for that better and create more sustainable revenues. I think we can do a lot better in terms of, and you know, a lot of this, I know I heard some of the talk earlier had to do with us reaching parity, you know, really held us back in terms of what we could do for new features. But I do think getting to the point of being on the cutting edge and adding new things that users want even before maybe they're big is something that we can do a lot better at. I don't think we've been great at that over the last year. I understand the reasons, but I think it's something that hopefully we're well positioned to be a lot better at moving forward. There's a number of other things. I mean, I think on the WoW slide, the governance process, I've been super impressed with. I think that's worked incredibly well. I know people have said that. I've been impressed with how many of you have stepped up as leaders in the community. And that doesn't just mean the workstream leaders. It means all of you that are here with, you know, various degrees of voice. That was something that was not a foregone conclusion either. And on that front, I think the decentralization in the community around the DAO has been one of the biggest success stories of the past 18 months in that we have a real active community. There is a real degree of decentralization. Doesn't mean that there's not more things for us to do to continue on that path of progressive decentralization. We've gotten through some big milestones on that. But compared to a lot of other DAOs and organizations in the crypto community that I have seen and you know, observed over the last year, ShapeShift is an incredibly decentralized org compared to the average org. And that's, I think, pretty cool and something to be proud of. So yeah, overall, I'm really proud of what the DAO has done over the last 18 months. And I look forward to everything that's going to happen over the next year.
All right, so I'm going to keep putting up some of GK stickies, and can we hear from some of the people on Zoom? You don't have to go through a whole big list of things. At the minimum, I would just like you to announce yourself so that we know you're here. Just for only T Wells can really see the screen of who's attended on Zoom. So just announce yourself. And if you want to say something about what worked well and didn't work well, please add your voice to that too. Okay, so they need to request to unmute in Discord. Oh, in Discord, you need to, how about for the names we know, can we just unmute them? Yeah, we're just gonna unmute you. And if you're not getting unmuted, please make the request and ping GK in Discord. Oh, and try
I'm
raising your
unmuted.
hand. Can you, someone raise your hand and just see if we can, if we notice that?
Hello.
And thanks everyone who's here while we work through the technical aspects of this. Beard, you're unmuted. Can you speak just to see if we can hear you? You're our first guinea pig.
I am Beard. Hello. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Blah,
Yeah, but
blah.
we're not hearing him through here. Beard, keep talking, please. Just like sing us a lullaby or tell us a fairy tale.
Once upon a time, there was a dog, and this dog lived on a farm, and the farm was made of spaghetti. What a terrible place to live. And then there was a bird, and the bird ate spaghetti. They all died.
All right, Beard, we got you. Thank you for coming in. You want to, anything else you want to add? Anything?
Yeah, I'm Beard. Yeah, I'm proud of everything we've accomplished. There's definitely growing pains of like working together with engineering and all the different work streams. But I think we've kind of like figured out a lot of the kinks for the most part. And now with marketing like working the way they are, I'm like really happy with like how that relationship is progressing. I'm not really too negative, so I think everything went great. Useful, right?
Thank you, Beard. Who else on Zoom can chime in for us? No one else on Zoom's going to talk?
Hey all, long time. It's Fox McCloud or Noah. Good to see you all and hear you all.
Good to see you.
Yeah, this is absolutely amazing. I don't have too much to comment on the most recent months. Obviously, I haven't been as involved as I once was, but wanted to stick my head in here and absolutely love seeing you guys still having these whiteboards and these meetings, and everything seems so positive. And you guys are all, as always, working together to hit that long-term mission of like true decentralization, true self-custody. So anyway, yeah. Obviously still a huge supporter and a user of ShapeShift, and I'm absolutely inspired to see you guys meeting like this, and love to see it happen.
Thanks, Noah.
Can you guys hear me? I don't know if I'm unmuted or not.
We can hear you. Who is that? Whoever just said, can you guys hear me? We can hear you.
Can you still hear me? This is Tyler.
Yes, Tyler, we got you.
All right, GM, sorry, calling from the urgent care parking lot right now while we take care of PCT. Wanted to add some things of what I've been able to catch on there. Things that I think we've done really well. I don't need to pile on to the fact that we're still here, but we had lots of odds against us. And the fact that we are kind of building on our successes in the ways that we have is just testament to all the hard work from the different individuals that are on the call right now or in that room. I actually think that all of the messy governance stuff was a good thing for us. I think that it showed some cracks in our current systems and ways in which we needed to navigate strengthening how our community engages in making decisions and open forum debates. And I hope it gets messier in the future so we can come out cleaner. Um, I'm super appreciative of every one of the contributors inside the marketing work stream. And they've all shown up and contributed in ways that has shown the successes that everyone else is providing praise for as well. None of these successes would be able to be done without the work of Arena and HPain and TULs and Shocks and Sapote. So thank you all very, very much for everything that you're doing there. One of the things I've heard some people say in earlier on, and I really hope from this call, this DAO WOW we can knock out as an action item, is our bounty process. I think that depending on what work stream or contributor that you're talking to, they all have different ideas about what bounties are inside our DAO and what they mean and how they're funded and who takes them seriously. And I would love for us to either focus in and develop on some of the tracks that we've started for bounties, or really kind of redefine some ways for getting engagement, because I do think there's been some conversation around future success and scalability. And in my opinion and view, the bounties have been one of the kind of cheapest ways for us to scale out and bring in more new talent. I do think that there's lots of checks and balances in the quality and the protocols and the amount of reviews and kind of kid glove treatment that we have to do with that right now. But I think that those are minor problems that could really be ironed out for future successes and bounties. Yeah. And the fact that we're all here and building with our heads down in a bear market, I think is something that is also worthy of note for something that's going well. There were times in centralized ShapeShift when the markets would spin out either up or down, and it was really hard to remain productive. Everyone would have their eyes on the markets, and there would just kind of weeks go by where nothing would happen at ShapeShift because everyone was watching what was happening in the markets. And we've got a really dedicated team here that rain or shine, good or bad days, leveraged or unleveraged, we're all working on something together and rowing in the right direction. So I really appreciate that and hope that continues. And that's all I have. And I don't think.
Okay, thanks, Tyler. Wish you were here with us, and Ron. Who else on Zoom wants to speak up? Anybody, even if you just want to introduce yourself. Oh yeah, please do.
What would work stream leverage? Hear my voice. What you said was
Thank you, Arena. Anybody else on Zoom? No? Okay. I think, what time are we at? Who can give me a time?
Oh, can you guys hear me?
Oh, there we go. Yes.
Cool, Mogi here. So had a couple things. What went well? The overall slimming down of the teams and the budgets. That's been mentioned by a bunch of people already, but just wanted to throw that in there. Another positive thing, the new Discord ticketing system used by customer support. It's essentially a live chat option for our users. It works quite well. Thanks again to GK for setting that up for us. You're great to work with, GK, and I appreciate you a lot. What didn't go well? I put having decisions happen behind the scenes. This was probably more at the beginning months of the DAO as we kind of transitioned, but we need to continue to make almost everything as open and public as possible if we want to be really respected as a true DAO. It has gotten better. recently, but like Pasta Ghost mentioned earlier, we do have a responsibility to our community members. Yeah, I just want to say hi to everybody, and that's what I had. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Mogi. That's it for Zoom, GK, T-Wells? Did I understand there's just one more, or is there more? That's it? Okay. All right, now, time check. Who can tell me? Would you prefer that I can review some of these themes now and then lunch, or should we have break first? Because we've been at this for a while. Okay, good. That's what I thought too. All right, we're on break. It's self-serve sandwiches. We'll get out cold cuts and bread, and there's some condiments, and I'm also gonna there's some pre-made Costco salads that we just need to can someone just go whip together some of those salads so we can have salad and sandwiches for lunch? And any leftovers from last night. No arugula.
Okay, everybody who's listening on the call, let's actually keep it open here. We're just gonna mute up and close the video for now, but we'll keep this stream running. Okay.